Hello, it's another driver's debrief log for the 5th of March 2024. We did not do a mock test today. Today is the penultimate lesson before the test. I have one more lesson before the test on the coming Thursday. I wanted to do a bunch of roundabouts today because I know that they're my weak point. But I made the mistake of misjudging what Tony would do, first of all, when I said, I want to do loads of roundabouts today, Tony, and maybe we'll squeeze in a parallel park manoeuvre. And he made like most of the entire lesson about parallel parking, which I might have learnt some stuff here and there for it, but it's not what I was there to do, and I shouldn't have. I didn't know he was going to overreact like that and make me do like loads of those when it was meant to be roundabouts. So I should have just said to him when we started off, all I want to do is roundabouts, nothing else. Turns out we spent half the lesson doing parallel parking and weird reversing manoeuvres and stuff, and we hardly got any time on the roundabouts. We did like 4 roundabout approaches, something like, and it wasn't enough to iron out the problems, which is a pain in the ass. So, I mean, next Thursday I'm going to make it a mock test anyway, because I need to have more experience of the test, and the mock test contains everything that the real test does, pretty much. So it's better if I learn on those. But I just wanted to squeeze in a bunch of roundabout stuff between last mock test and this mock test, because that was clearly the problem where I screwed up. If you remember last video, that's what I was saying. My main screw-ups were like 3 screw-ups on roundabouts, so I wanted to do roundabouts better. I think my position left was better on the roundabouts that we did do today, but other problem has fucking cropped up, which is I keep seeing the signs and it's like we're making like a right turn off the roundabout, but it's meant to be considered as a left turn, and then it's like second exit apparently, he says, but you're not meant to count no entry turns, so it was actually meant to be a first exit, but he was calling it second exit when you're meant to call it first exit because you're meant to ignore the no entry exit. And knowing when you're meant to indicate, if they're saying like straight ahead, I think he had me indicating right for straight ahead at one point. I was like, what are we doing? You've spent ages telling me never to indicate right for straight ahead. Now we're doing right for straight ahead. Oh man, I don't know if I mean, I assume he's a professional and he's saying the right things, but so many things he said kind of contradict other things he said in the past for the same event that we've done. It's a bit like weird. I mean, he is in his 70s, I'm not going to say he's senile or anything. I don't wish to doubt his professionalism or anything like that, because I'm not a driver and he's a driver, he's a driving instructor. But we do approach a scenario one week, and he tells me how to do it, and then we do it, and then the next week we do it in exactly the same way, and he tells me that's wrong, and then gives me contradictory advice to what he first said the week before. It's like, okay, there must be something I'm missing here, some specific special condition change. Like maybe because it's rainy today you do the roundabout differently from when it's sunny. It's actually sunny today, so the reverse of what I just said. That's another good thing, is like we've had non-stop rain for just 2 months, like all the year so far basically. There's been hardly any dry days, and this is one day when it's starting to look dry, but actually all the roads are still wet. So if we had this driving lesson in the afternoon, it would have been nice dry roads, but no. It was very busy today, that's one thing I noticed. Everywhere was busy. There were like school kids in fluorescent jackets and huge crowds being led along several roads. There weren't any animals that I know of that we passed this time, which is surprising. There was a hearse that followed us all the way. It seemed like this hearse was on the dual carriageway going high speed, which I've never seen before. It's kind of comical. Is behind us on the dual carriageway, and it followed us all the way back, most of the way home. There's so many potholes, like new potholes appearing in the road. So Tony just like takes a wheel suddenly, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's like steering away from the potholes that have just appeared, and there's like other potholes that have been repaired, so you think you're preparing to dodge a pothole that is like the famous pothole that's always there, and now it's been mended and it's gone. It's like, oh, so yeah, I've just spent all this time preparing and changing my approach speed to a thing that isn't even there. And like there are roadworks that past two lessons looked like they were going to stay for months, and this time they were gone outside Lifton Down, the bridge at Lifton Down. What else was there? We went on the dual carriageways. It seemed a little bit easier to enter on the slip road on the dual carriageways. I asked him, because we normally do dual carriageway approaches in third gear to hoof it up, as he says, to get that high speed to join the carriageway. And as soon as we got from the slip road to the carriageway, I was like going fourth gear to fifth gear, and then I was realising I was at a high enough speed that I could have just gone from third gear to fifth gear. And I asked him about it, and he says, you probably don't want to do it that way. And I don't really think I understood his explanation. It wasn't very clear why you don't want to do it that way. He says just go from third to fourth to fifth to sixth, you know. I'm getting slightly better at spotting the slip roads joining the dual carriageway on my left, but I haven't actually got to a point where I had an occasion, had an opportunity to do the moving to the right overtaking lane when someone's joining a slip road on the left yet. It's always been like, I don't know, braking or just spotting them so far. We drove through the centre for a short time. There was lots of holding back at the road, the parked car tunnels. Seemed to do most of those all right. There's one instance, sorry this is jumping around in the timeline quite a lot, but between starting off from home and reaching Lifton Down there was Chillerton Village. And just before Chillerton Village there was a very, very long, very gigantic white and green lorry trying to squeeze by just after the 30-mile-an-hour zone began, and just before we reached a parked car on the right that was blocking off all traffic. And I didn't stop early enough. I saw it coming, and I thought it was a van at first because the way the sunlight was shining on it, you could only see the sunlight shining on the first half of it. So I didn't know it was a long lorry at first. I thought it was a van. And I said to Tony I was going to stop for it. He stopped me slightly earlier than that because I think he could see it was a long lorry beforehand. I don't think I would have stopped as fast as he did because I'd be worried about the cars. There were cars following behind us. I'd be worried about one of them going into the back of us. So he stopped us early. He said, I wondered if you'd stop if you're on your own. I said I would, but I would have stopped a little later. And then he said, like, push in close to the left to this wall thing. And I thought we were going to hit the wall, but apparently there was enough room to get close to it. And then the lorry came in through the gap, and then he also said, like, come out from the wall now and push in close to the lorry, but it looked like a tiny gap that we wouldn't have been able to get through. But at the same time he said you have to push closer to the centre of the lorry as it's turning to give it enough room to turn behind you when it starts to come around you. So I hadn't thought of that before. And another occasion like that occurred in an industrial estate at Pennygillam, where it was just a car passing us, but we needed to move a little more forward so that the woman in the car could come around the back of us, rather than just holding still, like waiting for her to pass us. We were waiting for her, then she comes around and starts to pass us, then she'd kind of stop because we need to move forward so she can get around the back of us. That's like a new thing to me almost. I can't really judge that. So that's kind of a new thing to watch out for that hasn't cropped up in any of the lessons beforehand. We did a bunch of parallel park exercises, and I got some of the things right, some of the things wrong. One thing he started me doing that we weren't doing before was he wants me to indicate left as I pull in an arm's length, whatever that is, I still can't really judge it, beside the target car for the parallel park. So I have to try and remember to indicate left and then park beside the target car. I like to park a little bit further on forward from the bonnet or the boot, depending which way the target car is oriented. Then you have to do a lot of checks at each stage. You have to break the thing down into 4 stages, and each time you stop a stage you need to check all around, and he especially wants me checking the right blind spot, and I want to be checking out the boot, out the rear window in the centre, because it's a reversing exercise, so you need to look out there, but you've got to look around all directions. The hard part now I think, is remembering what steering I've done, remembering what that steering actually does when you're doing it, whether it's keeping you going straight or it's turning you at the present moment, and looking in the blind spot mirror for the sickle shape, which I can't judge very well. Blind spot mirror, obviously the little disc stuck onto your left wing mirror. You look at that, wait for it to become a sickle shape, and then you do the right hand steer to come in, and then you straighten up, and that'll bring you parallel to the curb. But he started me now using the reversing camera, which I hadn't been using for the reasons I've described before. You can't rely on it because other cars don't have it, but I've started using that now. He says, okay, other cars might not have the reversing camera, but if you use it in conjunction with the sickle in the blind spot mirror, then you can kind of compare the two, and you can figure out from both of them what you're doing and what it means when you see both things. And so on the reversing camera, it's like the bottom of a blue line. It's so hard to describe, and I don't even think I have any visual drawing or picture of what it's meant to look like either. So it's definitely an experience only thing. But it's like the bottom of a blue line on the left that comes down the screen. When that gets really close, almost touching the camera view of the curb, then you like undo the steering to straighten up, and you can't go too far back. At one point I got to the extreme distance, I think, that you're allowed to go back. I was in it, but he said if you went further back than this, they'd probably fail you or something, like the 2 car lengths thing. I'd like to get to a stage where I'm familiar enough with that exercise where I can do it off by heart and off by feel, rather than using weird references and things visually to work out what the hell's going on. Now, was there anything else? Oh yeah, on the way home he dragged me into a politics debate which we accidentally got into, which I was trying to pull out of, but he kept pushing to like ask more political and religious questions, and I was like, so it's not good to do that. It's like, you know, the Mars 500 project, where it's like I think it's a Russian space agency project where they think they're going to Mars, so they want to plan for the psychology of going to Mars, which mainly consists of like creating a situation of very long-term flatmates in a tiny space. So they cram, I don't know how many astronauts it is, like 8 astronauts into a fake habitat, like the Big Brother house or something from TV. Cram them into there and just make them live with each other for, is it 500 days? It's called Mars 500, so I assume it's like 500 days. I think if they did a real life Mars mission, it's longer than 500 days. But the obvious thing is like working out methods to not like fight and battle the people you've just met who are like strangers or acquaintances who become like flatmates. And you know, the main way you do that, to be honest, is not to get into any political or religious debates. That's the top thing that you need to do. You know, become not a normie, because that's just being influenced by politics, but like just not talking about certain subjects and talking about more culture-based or non-political subjects or non-religious subjects with the people you're in with. And then you can last longer in a confined space with a person. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about the driving lessons. Is I'm going to be here at the long haul until I pass my test, so I don't really like when he drags me into political conversations or anything. Because, yeah, I don't want to have a falling out with my driving instructor or anything. I don't want to get to that stage, because that would be annoying for trying to pass my test. So I try and keep things very subdued, only talk about, oh look, there's an animal over there, oh it's a sunny day, like small talk kind of topics, not deep talk topics. But yeah, we were talking about like freedom of speech and stuff. And God, I'm not going to go into it, but he was coming up with some strange arguments, let's say. Yeah, what else car driving related did we do? Oh, I think I missed a turning. No, there's like one right angle 90-degree turning. You're going down a road and you think the road carries on forward, because I guess there's some give-way markings on the road that are all kind of rubbed off and stuff. The road doesn't carry on forward. It like curves sharply 90 degrees to the right. the road that you're on, but there's a road ahead of you and it looks like it's your road, but it's not your road. Your road is curving off to the right, which looks like a turning off your road. So it's like completely what you wouldn't expect. And I just kept going forward without indicating left, as I would have had to do if I saw that it was a kind of a giveaway line turning off thing. And yeah, after I passed it, because I had noticed that something was wrong on the approach, and then I passed it and I went, oh wait, because once you pass it you can see there's a little bit of curve, a little bit of curved line. I was like, oh shit, that was some kind of bend, sorry. And then we stopped and he said that the road that we were on that was going forward was actually like a cul-de-sac, like a dead end, and it just kind of a few meters up the road from us it would have just stopped at some kind of metal pedestrian barrier things. So he stopped us there anyway because we couldn't actually go any further up there. He said it's possible to turn around at the top of the road, but it's very tight. You have to do a very controlled, on the clutch 3-point turn or 5-point turn or whatever. So we stopped there and he said the best way to get back onto that road was to reverse back, and I thought that didn't sound right, and I thought he was going to just reverse from the side road back onto the main road, which he said later, which confirmed my suspicions, is like that's illegal, that's wrong, you're not meant to do it like that, it's very dangerous. But he'd begun the reversing. I was like, is this right? Should we be doing this? Where are we going here? Are we just reversing a little way and then turning? It turned out he was reversing us into some weird driveway thing that I hadn't seen, like someone's driveway that was going uphill, and it was like black tarmac, and I didn't even know it was there. But he's like, now quick, full left hand lock. I was like, what, we're steering? And we're like reversing left, and then, yeah, I don't know what he was doing, we just started coming over the pavement. And he said that's the only way you would have done it, to get back to that road, because you couldn't reverse onto it, which is what I thought he was initially doing. So that was very weird. Now that's as many main things as I can remember, so before this video gets excessively long I'm going to leave it off now. It's probably been 20 minutes to half an hour already. Yeah, driving lesson in 2 days on a Thursday, which will be my last before my test. I don't think I'm going to pass my test first time, but anything could happen. Maybe it'll be dry, maybe I'll be calm nerved. Who knows? Mock tests tend to flow more than lessons where Tony's like, don't do that, don't do this, oh watch out for that, watch out for this, all the time. They're actually more enjoyable. But anyway, catch you later guys.
Illegal combatant on the grid.
Get in.
Illegal combatant on the
Get
grid.
in.
System failure. Release Renslow.
Game on, old friend. Who are you?
Hang on.
Hold up, man. You can't make that.
Made it.
I'm Cora!
They're turning around.
Not by choice. Their vehicles aren't designed to go off-grid. They'll malfunction on this terrain.
What about us?
Obviously not.